Hello everyone. Today's poem is Zhou Ge, a Zhou poem from the Book of Songs. As we all know that the first poem, Zhou Guanju, was valued with the most importance, with the most significance among the 300 poems in the Book of Songs. And thus, the second poem, this poem, should be very, very important with a lot of significance. But anyhow, as far as I read through all those books and explanations, nobody explained this reason. Nobody touched to this reason, or nobody explained if this poem is very important, because it came the second in the 300 poems, right? Or if it was so important, why it became so important? So here, let me give you some of the idea I had. Maybe I'm not correct, or maybe partially is wrong, but let's have a start, try to find out why this poem came the second, and if this poem is with a lot of significance to the Zhou people, and of course to the later generations. So, as we all know that the book Zhouyi is the foundation of the Chinese classic thoughts, the philosophy, the mindset. So in the book of Zhouyi, there is a sentence to describe how the human society evolved and came from, how it came from. So the word is like this. Let me read all the sentence. 有天地，然后有万物；有万物，然后有男女；有男女，然后有夫妇；有夫妇，然后有父子；有父子，然后有君臣；有君臣，然后有上下；有上下，然后礼义有所措。So this is a long paragraph. Let me explain it. So finally, when we read through this poem, we can cross-check this paragraph with the content of this poem. So basically, this paragraph is about the universe came with the heaven and the earth at the very beginning, and later on, all the creatures was created by the heaven and the earth. And when the creatures was created, there are females, there are males, and of course there's a man and women. So this is how the universe comes from and evolves. So when the universe has men and women, sometimes they have the relationship of couple to make it a home. So the husband and the wife. So this is one of the relation. It's a social relation, right? So when the couple was they have the couple relations, then they have the father and sons, right? The parents gave the birth to the son and daughters. When there has the relationship of the father and sons, the relationship of a lord and its citizens was created or involved. So when there is a relation between the lords and citizens, there is social order, the upper level people and the lower level people. And when there is upper level people and the lower level people, the code of conduct was created and involved. So this basically is the concept or the vision in the Zhou dynasty, or maybe it was described and created much earlier, before the Zhou dynasty. But this is not the point for today's discussion. The point is that when the universe was full of creatures, with male creatures and female creatures, it means nothing. For human beings, there's a lot of men, there's a lot of women, but the marriage started from the group marriage. So when was a son, a daughter was born, they know who was his or her mother, but they don't know who was his father, because there's no marriage. The marriage we'll talk today, right? So when the arrangement or the social rules of the family was created or established, this is a fundamental change to the human society, that because the son know who was his father, of course, he know his mother always. And then that's the family came from, right? The parents with the sons, they know who is who, right? So this is the meaning in this sentence, 有万物然后有男女，有男女然后有夫妇. So at the very beginning, it's the group marriage. So there's a bunch of men and women, but they are in group marriage. And later on, someday, one day, there is real marriage as a couple. So in this sentence, it means someday there has couple, 然后有夫妇. And when the couple, this arrangement, this social rules was established, of course, the relationship between the father and son was created, because the son know who was his father, right? And so on. Finally, with the relationship between father and son created, then someday the society has the Lord and has his citizens and subjects. And with the lords and subjects relationship created, then the people in the society, they know the social level, right? The Lord was the upper level person, and the most of people are the lower level people in the society. And finally, the code of conduct was created to refine and define the relationship between different social levels, between different people. So from this sentence, we know that the cornerstone of a society is the couple, right? Before the relationship of a couple was created, it's sort of the savage people. They are in the group marriage. So when the relationship of couple was created, and then it evolves to the society in the Zhou dynasty, and the code of conduct was created as well. So the cornerstone is the relationship of a couple, and all other relationships, the father to a son, the Lord to his subjects, the code of conduct was all created based on the relationship of a couple. So that's why the first poem, 关雎, was said, was told, was perceived as a poem of marriage. Because with a good marriage, you made a very solid, good cornerstones of the society. And especially this marriage is the marriage of the king's family or some of the senior level peoples, the state lords, who are very, very key and important to the whole society. If their marriage has some problems, we can imagine there will be a huge trouble for the society, right? Even in today, there are still some royal countries, kingdoms in the world, right? If the royal family has some of the big family issues like divorce, or the prince has some problems, fundamentally, the problems has a huge impact to the society, even in nowadays. So that's why the first poem is about the marriage. And the second poem, this poem, is about a marriage, but with a different angle. Let's see. The title, 葛谭, means the branch of the Kudzu Vine. So the kudzu is a very important plant in the Zhou dynasty because this is the textile, this is the material for the clothing, for the shoes. And at that time, there is no cotton in China. So the material for clothes, for shoes, basically is silk or kudzu. But silk was too rare and too expensive. So even the noble people in their daily life, they wear the clothes made of kudzu. And in this poem, they're making use of kudzu to make a clothes, to make a suit, was mentioned in this poem as well. And also, kudzu was also mentioned in some other poems in the Book of Songs. It's always used to parallel the family trees, the branch family trees, because the royal family is the stem of the country, is the tree itself. But the branch families, like the state lord, like the junior lords, some junior lords, or some of the citizens, maybe they are with the royal blood, they are the Zhou people. So all these people that not from the royal family will compare themselves as the wine, kudzu wine. So 葛 refers to kudzu, and the character 谭 refers to the small branches extended from the kudzu wine. So 谭葛 basically refers to the sons, the daughters, the grandsons, granddaughters from a lord's family. As far as we have a clear idea and a clue to the metaphor of kudzu wine, this poem is quite simple and straightforward. 葛之覃兮，施于中谷，维叶萋萋. The kudzu vine extended with a lot of small branches, and it grows prosperously in the middle of the valley. So the middle of the valley is the place of the Zhou state, right? We are reading the poem from the Zhou state. This is the second, right? And the next sentence. 黄鸟于飞，集于灌木， 其鸣喈喈. The oriole birds was flying, and finally they gathered together at the low bushes, and they are singing pleasantly and in a harmony. 喈喈reflects the status. The sound was in a harmony. So there's a lot of saying what does this oriole bird refers to, because the oriole birds appeared again and again in the later generations in the poems. And so in general speaking, the oriole birds is a very beautiful small birds with nice sound. And secondly, the oriole birds normally appears at the time in the harvest of the wheat. So this is a very, very important time for the Zhou people. Basically they are the farmers. They are the farming field. The crops are the most essential things and work for them. So when the oriole birds was around and singing happily, it also reflects the happiness when the Zhou people, they are going to have a great harvest, as well as the silkworms. So it's hard to tell what does the oriole birds implies too in this poem. But anyhow, the Kudzu Vine is a parallel to the family and its descendants, the sons and daughters. And the Middle Valley is the place they lived. And there's a lot of other pleasant creatures around. It's a very nice and happy, joyful land. They lead on a very happy, joyful land. And someone says the oriole birds also reflects that the Kudzu Vine are so prosperous and attractive that the other creatures, other people, the people living in other states, other places, they were attracted by this fertile and prosperous valley. And the oriole birds was sort of the other people. And in other way, it reflects a prosperous and a happy, joyful land and people, the daughters and the sons. And in the later generations, basically the oriole birds reflect the person, especially the senior officers, with a very, very diligent and good virtue. 是于中谷，维叶莫莫. The Kudzu Vine grows prosperously in this middle valley, and its leaves was very, very prosperous and thick. So it all reflects a very, very nice and fertile land together with the Kudzu Vines. And it also reflects the time it was changing. So in the first paragraph, the leaves was described as qi. So qi was mainly refers to the color and the prosperity. So it's very likely referring the Kudzu Vine was in its use time. And in the second paragraph, the leaves was described as mo. It's a status of mature, grown up. And it's also reflected or implies that the sons, the daughters, they have grown up. 是刈是濩，为絺为濩，服之无斁. We cut the Kudzu Vines. We process the Kudzu Vines in the water, and we make clothing with Kudzu Vines. And these clothing is so fortunate when we wear this clothes made of kudzu vines. It's so fortunate. It brings luck to us. So let's go to the characters first. 是揖, 揖 to cut. 或 it means to dig the kudzu vines in a pond in the water and let the kudzu vines to rotten away. And finally, the kudzu vines was made of thread, and with the kudzu vine thread, the women, the girls, they made clothing. 吃 refers to a very fine textile of kudzu vines, while 细 was a normal clothing made of kudzu vines. It was not with fine textile. 无义, we have seen this character many times, without shame, or it's of luckiness. So here, actually it reflects the daily life of the Zhou people, because in that time, in a normal day, the man goes to the farming field to do their job, and the women are busy with the sewings, threadings to make the clothing. So basically, the most important task for men is farming work. The most important task for women is the sewing work. And the clothing is also a very, very important, has many types of clothing, and it's one of the key elements of the code of conduct, because different level people, they wear different kinds of clothes in the different situation. So the clothing, whenever you saw the clothing was mentioned in the Book of Songs, it was always an indication to the status of that person, the social level, basically, as well as some of the special occasions. Because let's say if in the most grand ceremony, they should, as a state lord, they should wear a kind of clothes. They all have their dedicated names. In the daily life, a state lord should wear sort of the clothing. They also have a dedicated name. In a normal sacrifice, the state lord should wear sort of the clothes. So as a senior officer, he has a set of clothes for different locations, different from the state lord, not to say the king, the Zhou king. So the clothing was always a very, very important element in the Book of Songs, in the poems of the Book of Songs. So in the second paragraph, we know very clearly the subject in this poem is a female, most likely is a daughter of the state lord of a senior officer, right? Because the Kudzu Vine, Tan refers to the descendants, the daughters, the sons of a big family. And in the second paragraph, it's all about the clothing, or making the clothing. So that's the task, that's the job of a female. So combine the first and second paragraph, where we know very clearly this poem is talking a daughter of a big family, and she is very capable, and she is the best girl in the best, because she made a very nice job on her duties to make the clothes. And when everybody wear the clothes she made, it will bring the fortune and the likeness to them. Okay, the third paragraph. 言告师氏，言告言归. Now I'm telling the message to my teachers, and I'm about going my home. So let's go to the character first, and then let's see what's this sentence meaning. 师氏 refers to the teachers. So in the Zhou dynasty, the noble families, they send their kids to the schools, the boys to their schools, the girls to the girls' schools. So the boy was learning a lot of things: shooting, archery, reading books, and music, dancing, a lot of things. That's for boys. And for the girls, we are not quite sure. I think reading the books is one of the something they learn in the school, because we can see some poems written by the female in the Book of Songs. And the second most important things is to learn the skill like sewing a cloth or do some of the duties in the grand ceremony, because the ceremonies, the sacrifice to ancestors, to God, is some of the very key elements in the daily life. And that grand ceremony was always sponsored both by the Lord and senior officers, as well as the queens, the wives of the senior officers. So it's a joint effort both by the male citizens and the female citizens. And there's a lot of things they should learn in the school, in the daughter's school. And here, 师氏 tells us very clearly, it's the teachers. And 归 means to go home. So from the first and second paragraph, we know the subject in this poem is a girl. And the home for a girl is not his father and mother's home. A home for a girl is her husband's home. So when a girl was telling someone that I am about going home, which means she would got married, she would have a real home for her in her husband's home. So that's the methodology in the Zhou dynasty in the Book of Songs. So the following sentence is quite easy to understand. As far as we know, this girl was about to get married, and she was in a very nervous and busy status, right? So the second sentence is 薄污我私，薄浣我衣. 薄 means a status of hurriedness. So 薄污我私 means in a hurriedness, I put my clothes dirty. So he's busy with something, right? And the next sentence tells us what he's doing. 薄浣我衣. In a hurry, I'm washing my clothes. So it's quite strange, right? I put my clothes dirty. I'm washing my clothes. So the two character basically has a very clear concept in the Zhou dynasty. First thing first is 私, and the second is 衣. So the first 私 means something private of me, and in this context, it means the clothes of my daily wear. So that's the most normal clothes a man, a woman, a son, a daughter wears. That's the most humble clothes everybody wear in a daily life. And the yi was always referring the fine clothes defined by the code of conduct in a ceremony. Let's see, in a wedding in these circumstances, right? Because at these circumstances, the girl was so busy of preparing her wedding, and she, from the second paragraph, we know she sewing all the clothes and things he needed for her wedding, for her new home. And in the third paragraph, 薄浣我衣, she was so busy and hurrying washing her clothes, the fine clothes needed in the wedding ceremony. And so the wedding ceremony consists of a lot of ceremonies, including the ceremony in the ancestors' temples, in some sacrifice ceremonies. So there should be several sets of fine clothing needed for this girl. So the second pair of sentence, 薄污我私，薄浣我衣, reflected the subtle feelings of this girl. She was so expecting for her marriage, but she was so nervous as well. She was so busy to prepare her wedding. In such a way, when she was hurrying, washing her fine clothes, she put her clothes wearing on her body dirty. The third pair of sentence, 害浣害否，归宁父母. Which clothes should I wash? Should I clean up? Which one I needn't to clean up? All in all, I'm going to my home. I'm about to go into my home. And all in all, it's for the sake to please my parents. Okay, let's go to the character first. 害 is a long word of 何, which means which one. So this describes that there's a bunch of clothes in front of the girl, and she was in such a nervous status, and she was almost lost his mind. The fear, the happiness, the worry, and the uncertainty. There's a lot of things for a girl before her wedding, right? So in front of a bunch of clothing, she almost lost her mind. Which clothes should I wear to clean up, to wash? Which clothes I needn't to wash up? And I also have a new explanation for the character 害. 害 in general meaning means to kill someone or to damage someone seriously. And 害浣, it means I damaged the action of washing. 浣means washing, which means I stopped washing. So 害浣害否 in other way can be explained. If I should stop the washing, or if I have finished my washing, or I didn't finish my washing. So this reflects a very, very conflicted situation, or feelings of the girls. He washed his clothes again and again, and still she's not sure it's clean enough, or she should continue to wash, including the stained clothes she was wearing, right? In the second pair sentence, it tells us very clearly she was in such a hurriness that she stained, she made her clothes dirty, the clothes she wearing, right? And she was hurrying washing the clothes needed for the wedding ceremony. The character Gui means to go home. So in the Zhou dynasty, for a girl, her parents' home is not her real home. Her husband's home is the home for a girl. So when a girl was telling, I'm going home, which means she would get married. So the last pair sentence reflected the girl was in a very, very nervous and questioning status. And finally, she want to calm down herself with the word 归宁父母. So the wedding is the final destination for every girl, because the girl was going to her home, right? To her husband's home, to her own home. So this is the destination for a girl. I should continue preparing and proceed all the things needed for her wedding, right? And all in all, the wedding, or at least the wedding, will please her own parents. 归 is for herself. 宁 means to calm down, to please her own parents. So this is a whole poem talking about. It gave us an overview of a girl's life in her parents' home, and also it gave us a very excellent description how the girl behaves and his feelings before her wedding. And also it gives the girls the final conclusion that the wedding is for two purposes. For the girl, it's the final destination of a girl. For her parents, it will greatly please her parents. All in all, this poem is about a marriage from a girl's angle. So it's still about a marriage, just like the first poem in the Book of Songs, 关雎. The 关雎is talking about a marriage from a boy's angle. In this way, you should have at least the basic understanding how the marriage is, the significance, the importance to the Zhou people. One more thing, the words 归宁 finally involves as a dedicated term referring that a married wife return to his parents. So this returning could be just after the new weddings. It varies from different regions. Several days after the wedding ceremony, maybe several months after the wedding ceremony. And also in the Spring Festival, the second day is also the day for 归宁, for the married wife returning to his own parents' family. This is a very, very big event, and of course it's a very, very happy returning for the married wife. There's a very, very popular pop song about this 归宁. The name was 回娘家, and so finally, in nowadays, normally this activity, this returning to her parents' home, most of the time was so-called as 回娘家. But if you can, when you're writing some of the articles, or if you want to say some of the very elegant words, you could still say 归宁. Is a very, very sophisticated and elegant word in nowadays life. Okay, it's all about 回娘家, 归宁, about marriage from a girl's angle. And bye-bye for today.